Welcome back. Welcome back, audience, to 2026, shall we say. Hope you're doing good. As always, me, good. All right, and let's chat a bit. There's one thing I want to talk about today, and that is what people call self esteem. I want to just clarify what that is. I want to just point out that most people in our society just moves in the wrong direction, um, and how to move in the right direction, and what is the real self-esteem. Low self-esteem or high self-esteem? First of all, low self-esteem or high self-esteem is none other than the feelings that you have basically at the base of everything. This is basically, again, is nothing complex, right? Everything that I'm talking about is immediately verifiable. There's nothing outside of your consciousness. This is why I don't speak about something that, you know, you have to believe. You don't have to believe it, you have to feel it, right? Feel it, observe it directly within your consciousness. That's where it all starts. It doesn't start with someone else outside of you. Okay? That's where it ends. But look, so people start with this, some event happens, they have this low self-esteem feeling. Okay? That's what they call low self-esteem, but it's the base of your soul. That event just revealed a distortion within your soul, which, by the way, as I said before in a previous video, that distortion is not a problem. That's like a pieces of the puzzle being fragmented. When you come to play this game in this world, they're all fragmented. The point of it all is to put them back together. You actually building your soul, your little soul. Okay. And at the basis, these feelings is what you may call, the infinite. When everything is put together, you're capable of diffracting the distorted light of this world into the infinite. And that's the peace, bliss kind of feeling. I just name it, but it's really indescribable. But that's what it feels like at the basis of everything. That's how infinity feels like. It's like eternal peace and bliss. That's what at the basis of everything. And the point of it all is to bring that infinite within temporal, which is the soul, and this is what we are here to do. So there's therefore like this idea that traumas exist is not true. That somebody calls you low self-esteem is also not true. It's the game, and you can play this game in the wrong way. And what do normally people do, right? They call it low self-esteem, and then they look for the solutions outside of them. And then this huge, massive industry, low self-esteem industry, that's built. Which, by the way, that is the reason why everybody's fucked up. Because at this point, where you're just feeling this, what you call low self-esteem, which is usually four types of feelings: the feeling of pain, feeling of pressure, the feeling of poison, and a feeling of confusion. That's what usually happens to you at the basis of your being, when there's nothing outside of you that can pick you out of it, right? And the world is going to put you in that place. The event is going to happen, and it's going to bring that negative feeling out. That sometimes people call low self-esteem. So at this point, there's no problem yet. If you go and seek out this industry help by the psychologist, helpers, coaches, trainers, anybody outside of you. With regards to this, there are some skills that, usually in the mind and body, there is worth listening to a teacher to a degree to get the hang of it, right? Because if somebody already masters some sort of a skill, of course, it's best to listen to that person, and it's easier for you to master that skill. But we're talking about skills, which is usually to do with the mind and the body. But in the soul, there is no teacher. No one can teach you this. Like, and even here, what I'm doing, I'm just pointing out to the existence of the capacity that you already have. So there's one, you go into the mind and looking for the people outside of you and say, well, help me. I have this low self-esteem thing. Help me. And so, of course, so that's what you want. All right, cool. Give me money, and then I will show you how not to feel that feeling, right? And not only that, will show you not to feel that feeling. I will also show you how to be proficient in psychological warfare, basically, which is that's how you avoid not feeling that feeling. Because the only way you're not going to feel that feeling is if you're going to keep on pacifying with some external pleasures. That includes reward seeking, or reward itself. Then whatever that may be, compliments, likes, respect from people, like all this external stuff that you need to keep that belief system alive. Because if you don't, you're going to have to go back to the basis of your being, which is you have not looked at for so long. And everybody, or a lot of people, are terrified of this, because every time you go this wrong way, you build up all that thing that you have not yet looked at. And sometimes people get to the point where it's like they may not be capable of even handling that much build up, you see. And this is why people are double up on their lies. Of course, the people who are teaching, the psychologists who are showing how to create the belief systems, how to understand yourself, and then once you understand yourself, then you have to create another belief system. So then that does not happen. None of it solved anything. You have to understand the scale of stupidity that majority of the whole this self-help industry went. That's why you have all these problems. This is why you have people crazy. This is why all of this woke nonsense been going on. And thank God that's being crushed down right now. But now it doesn't really look good, because you have to use might, you have to use physical force to not let that propagate. And then that pushes people naturally to deal with their stuff for real, not continuing going onto this ideological and belief safe haven, not to face these things. So as you can see, the cost of not looking at that negative feeling that we call people low self-esteem is horrendous. It's massive. And you have to understand that almost everything, and not only that you need to face it, but before you can even face it, you can't even see it, because you've built up all of this. I shouldn't say you, but this theoretical person have built up so much of these belief systems that you can't even feel what you gotta feel. Now you have to dismantle, look at the thoughts, where the thoughts coming from. Then you find that thoughts coming from the emotion. Then you look at the emotion, you see where that emotion is coming from. And then only then you get to the point of the feeling, because emotion is not a feeling, as you know. And by the way, these four bases of these distortions, which by the way, nobody's fault. We came in with these distortions. Sorry, what happened here? Yeah, it's all good. Nobody's fault. We came in with these distortions to play this game, but we just seem to be distracted or not shown how to play this game, and just always given this sugar packet solution kind of thing. like Red from that 70s show, if you ever watched that show. Sugar packet solution, you know. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that all this belief system now has to be broken down in order for you to even get to the feeling, okay? Which may not be obviously uh, a sightly thing. All these coping mechanisms and everything, and all these affirmations, you know. See, you don't need affirmations, you know, and every belief is a doubt. Every belief is contradictory. You see, and you may say, well, how can you have an opinion if you don't have a belief? I'll show you how you can have an opinion without a belief. Because belief is something that is created within your mind, that it's a memory within your mind, which mind is a tool. It's not supposed to have its own type of like, you know, opinion. Tool does not supposed to have opinion, right? But it seems that it does. And so it creates this generates these thoughts from already stored memory, which is a belief system. And that is why these thoughts are propagating there and creating the same reality. Okay. But once you dissolve these belief systems, and in order for you to dissolve these belief systems, you've got to go to the root cause of it, and that is that negative feeling. But when you find it and you observe it, okay, that's the way out. I call it like I through the eye of a needle. But you observe it. You just simply place your attention, which is attention is something that you are putting on some sort of something that is kind of not you, right? The objective or object. If you feel that feeling and you're attentive of that feeling at that moment, you just found that feeling in your attention is that feeling. Now when you stay there, that's your courage part. That's when you stay there and you also become aware of the background of things, which is nothing. And when this that attention and awareness is becomes sort of one, then you have alchemized that permanently. Now, at the basis of your being is some form of peace and bliss. And I'm not going to go into like how many of these corrections for these distortions are there, but there are a limited number of them, and I call them gems. And this is how you discover that gem. And I also have to mention that it seems that uh, this is a process of alchemy, and that there is a masculine way of dealing, which is more through the courage, and the feminine way of dealing, which is more through the surrender. And it corresponds to the masculine way is to say that I am everything. I am that disgusting thing that I'm feeling. I am this pressure that I'm feeling. I am this pain that I'm feeling. It just takes ownership of all of those things that you know that nobody wants. I shouldn't say nobody. That's wrong. Few people do. So, right. So that's the masculine way. I am everything. I am this. I'm this. I am also this. I'm also this. Is taking responsibility for everything. Right. The feminine way is is the other way. Is say I'm not that. I am not that feeling. I am not this. I'm not this. And so there is this like surrender to the nothing, which is a background of things, the void. And as you surrender to the void completely, you end up being also in connection with everything and nothing. And vice versa, as you go to the masculine way, you also end up being connected to the feminine through the masculine way. When you become everything, then you can't help but be in the background of nothing. And so there's that peace, bliss, union of masculine and feminine that happens at the basis of everything. But most of the time, we are on one or the other. And it seems to me that um, there's this alchemy happens in a depending on whether you are playing the male or female character. That's the alchemy that you're going to have. It doesn't seem like there's a choice about this. There might be some exceptions, but I'm just talking about general you know I'm not talking about extremes and exceptions and some experimental sides of that. I'm talking about male, female, and if you're playing male character, there's gonna your path is gonna be male. If you're playing female character, your path is gonna be female. There's no room to argue here. If you don't do this, then you go into the dark path, and then you're gonna have to learn your lesson. Um, and that was just the avoidance of your true essence in the path. And it seems that men have, I'll say, maybe 20% of these challenges that come along require pure surrender, and 20% of the challenges come along require some courage for in the woman as well. So it's not like you're 100%, 100%. Um, that's what it seems like to me. That's what's going on. But the final result, as you're alchemizing, a man will tend to hold more light, that bliss energy, and a woman will tend to hold more love, that peace energy. Okay? Now, those gems is the true esteem, is the true self esteem. Okay? Nothing to do with all of these belief systems and all of these teachings that been recording as a memory. And you see how it starts with just having low self-esteem, which is a negative feeling, and then by trying to find a solution through the logical means and external world, you create the demonic structures, you can create the belief systems. And what happens then? You say, well, yeah, sure, now you created that, and maybe you don't have to deal with that negative feeling anymore, because you keep on pacifying it with the positive ones, and you keep on fighting in that matrix arena. Which what does it do? It exhausts you, because it always requires the energy to sustain itself. So the beliefs require the energy to sustain itself, which is ego. Beliefs are ego, right? So, um, and so therefore, people are fighting, 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 getting to the point where they can no longer continue that, where that fix that was working before is no longer working, because it's a type of addiction in all sorts of respects, like whether you're addicted to the substance, or uh, some sort of reward system, or whatever that thing, you know it's a type of addiction. And only when it stops working do these, what people call tower moments, come. Where, what is the tower moment? The tower moment is when your belief system is collapsing, and emotions start popping up, and the realizations popping up, like, oh my god, what the fuck have I done? All of these things start popping up, popping up, popping up. And hopefully it's going to take you, and a lot of people stay with emotions, and then they don't go deeper. But you gotta go deeper. You gotta go deeper, to the place where you started, to the place where you're still kind of pure and innocent, and you just had this low feeling inside your heart before these motherfuckers came to you and took your money and told you of how to, program yourself, program your belief system, of how to create this monster. Before that happened, you were better off. This is what I've been seeing in other people, and it's with the spiritual people. When you alchemize and you live on a daily basis, leaning in against that energy, I'll talk a little bit more in a moment. But when you live like that, in the contrast of that energy, you feel everybody else's energy. Okay, it's become so tangible to you, that it's, like, it's almost like feeling or tasting another person, or yeah, and exactly how they're structured. They don't even have to say words, whatever. I know, and I feel them immediately. Okay, and if they have like a lot of these belief structures built up, they don't, the energy is not flowing through them freely. Okay, and there's that tightness that appears. And so there, these types of people, for example, they don't have capacity to listen. Like for example, if you're talking to them and you feel like a tension inside of you, and you kind of want to raise your voice or talk over or whatever, that is because they're not listening. They may look like listening, but they're not listening because the belief system is armed, basically. Okay. And so usually when you're around that type of person, they may say that they want a dialogue, but they don't. They want your energy. That's what the ego wants. It wants to strengthen itself, right? And the way to strengthen itself is by uh, getting your energy, getting you riled up about this or whatever, right? That's how they feel safe. It's like, oh, I'm real because something is opposing me or whatever, right? It's a trick, you see, but that's why I've most of the time I've learned, not to talk to these types of people. And if I like them, then I will listen to them just to sort of like erode that tension that they're holding around their heart, right? That's all you can do. Because if you try to speak and you feel that they're not listening, they're in a belief system, there's nothing you could say that they're going to listen. They actually just want two things. The reason they're in front of you is because ego is trying to get sustain itself, because you want to try get your energy. It's like acts like as a vampire. But if you're not a gullible person who plays that type of game, then their soul is also interested to get the fuck out of there, and basically says, hey, just erode a little bit of that um, belief system, please, so I can just get the fuck out. So that's what I do. I don't talk to them, I listen to them. And I don't listen intellectually, because nothing they say is going to be of value. Nothing said out of belief system ever need to be um, worried about, paid attention about. It's nonsense. All of it is bullshit. Trust me. Everything that comes from the belief is a lie. So you don't need to bother about what they're saying, because it's just going to be from the belief system. It's not truth. But you listen with your heart. It is a type of a chemical process, just like you've done with yourself. You can do with somebody else, but only if that person is around you, only if that person is bring any kind of value in your life. I won't do this to anybody. I will only do this to somebody who is at least has a prospect to be a part of the tribe. Now, so that's what it feels like dealing with the people who could build that belief system. And there's more, but I don't want to expand on this. And the worst are the ones who are the teachers. I met those spiritual teachers too. And I've had that feeling before, but now I'm really tuned to this, and I can read it very well. And they have this like sickly energy feeling, which is, you know, toxic positivity and whatnot and whatever, right? Like, I don't want to get into this, but I'm just saying that they're not teachers of anything, right? Like, if somebody, as I said before, if somebody's teaching you a skill, it's valid, right? Because you need to have some skill to whatever you want need to do, right? You want to sing, you want to dance, you need to learn the skill, you need to learn the technical stuff, but nothing to do with believing about how the world works. You don't have to do that. All of that comes from the truth upon alchemizing the negative feeling, sitting with it until it turns into the positive feeling. Okay? sometimes people call it shadow work, but it's not a shadow work. I see people doing quote unquote shadow work. It is not a shadow work at all. It's sort of martyrdom of some sort, because they don't really get out of this. They seem to be looking sort of for the ways to pacify it, some ways, you know. But anyway, I'm just saying that even meditation, because a real meditation is what I'm talking about. Real meditation is placing that point, that attention on the source of all of that nonsense that's been happening, and becoming aware of the background. And then that distortion gets corrected for, and you receive esteem. That's your real esteem. It's a real value. That is the that's why you came here in this life. If you have not, at the end of your life, if you have not retrieved these gems in your soul, which is basically how does it look like in a everyday day-to-day life, it just looks like you're feeling good no matter what's going on. And there's this perhaps sly smile about everything, and you know that's kind of a game. But not because somebody told you it's a game, because then again you create another belief system, but because you already see through it. Okay, so that's his real self-esteem. And your soul, the spirit side, has feelings. You know, the other side, the soul side, has emotions. The mind has thoughts, and then the body has sensations, you know. And so throughout all of your consciousness, you will always experience some form of that. It's never going to be outside of it, even though it appears that we are living in a shared reality, right? And there is this capacity that is you know, multiplayer dream. That's what it is. It's a multiplayer dream, and each our own subjective reality has an impact on this so-called objective reality. But it's nevertheless it's a shared dream. Okay, and that dream seems to be also alive, kind of thing, right? So that's why it has its own way of being, and we have our own way of being. Okay, sometimes people call it, you know, Gaia and whatnot, and the universe and so on. But it is an alive environment that we're all sort of like immersed in. We're playing this game. Okay. And this environment is challenging. We are, well, like I said, there's no traumas. Nobody's been traumatized. Nobody done anything onto you. As soon as you logged into this video game, you started with the fragmentation, the pieces of the puzzle. That's how it all started. They experience is a negative feelings. When negative event happens, they experience is a negative feelings, right? And in order for you to have a sovereign capacity to alchemize them, you have to do it by yourself completely. It's your attention and awareness on the negative feeling that has the capacity to transform it. That is only when you become real. You see what I'm trying to say? This is when you uh, gain a soul, you see? That is when you have value. Okay? Everything else, it doesn't really have value. The beliefs don't have value. Conditions don't have value. This has value. Okay? The another thing that happens when you've alchemized, it appears to me when you've alchemized enough of them, you have capacity to alchemize the people that come into your vicinity. Okay. um but I also have to say something. There is this dynamic that a lot of like dependent people on your energy, right? For example. Okay, and that may not be bad if you have like a family members and whatnot. That may be good. It's not a problem. However, like if they are not willing to wake up or have no plans of waking up, they're just like more like a non-play characters, and they become alive through you. Okay, and you may meet people like that. You know, they come alive through you. But when they go out in their own little ways, and do whatever they want, when they leave your space, leave your energy, they revert back as an NPC, an NPC mode, And some may want to gain their own sovereignty and start dealing with their negative feelings through your attention and awareness, because it is not difficult to just, if you can place your attention on your hand right now, become attentive of your hand and all the sorts of like sensations in your hand, and then at the same time become attentive of the background of everything. There's a certain type of in betweenness that you feel between the object, what's observed, and the observer, the eye and the object, which in this case is the eye is not my eyeball, which you also have to ask, like, what is this thing? What is this thing that becomes attentive of any point in my body, for example, right? There's this eye, and that's your soul, that's your heart, is capable of doing that. And that's the faculty. The only thing you can do is just point and broaden, point and broaden. It's this game that is can only do like this. There's no thinking going on, there's no high level of complexity. That's all there is. Okay. And so therefore it's a type of tuning, it's a type of game. The negative, you find that negative feeling and you play with it. It's not a work. I shouldn't say work, because work seems like, oh, it's hard and whatever. No, you play with it. If you know how to play with it, it's not difficult. You can handle the most unbearable feelings in the most elegant way, that normally they would have been unbearable, but you've handled it really well by being a master of that attention and awareness. Okay, and it's a type of game, and you can get the hang of it. That's how the game starts. Actually, until you play this game, you're not really in the game. You may talk about the matrix, you may imitate it, everybody else is talking about it, so like, oh, just say the same thing, but you're not playing the game. This is how you begin playing the game. That's your first joystick. And then you discover these feelings that it's there, they're always there. And then you discover that they have colors and whatever, and there's many of them, and there's combination of them, and there's like notes in an instrument. And soul to me is like kind of instrument, and that's why I say that we first have to build our instrument, which is our soul. We have to start with our soul. Until we build our soul, we can't really do anything in this life, of value. And then these notes, they become of like the instrument, and then soul creates what creates like a melody, because it's not just the feelings that we want. There's like a static feeling. You want them being sort of like moving around in a melodic fashion. That's what we really want, and this is what we call actually emotions. Those are real emotions, where it's those feelings in motion. Okay. So, and these feelings create a real poesis, and before it even mind interprets that, that is where all the real original creativity comes from. It's this melody thing, and it can be a poetry, it can be music, it can be dance, it can be martial arts, it can be a lot of things, but that's where it's coming from. Okay, it's coming from the infinite, and this is how you can have an opinion, this is how you can say things without having any belief system. You're not a plant, you know. If you just, there's this another idea that I see people like becoming like doing nothing and doing it's just like, no, you're dulling yourself. This is not nothing to do about that. You can be in the gym and be attentive of that negative feeling. You can watch a movie, can be attentive of that negative feeling, right? It's, of course, it's not going to be negative when you learn how to play with it. You're going to be looking forward to playing with it because you know what it is. It's a, anyway, I don't want to spoil too much, but it's a awesome stuff. Now, so there's this poesis going on, right? And it turns into certain form, art, and it could be anything, whatever you do in your life, and it will be imbued with these feelings. And then whatever you've created, another person, that may be everything, even like your body, your motion, your move, everything. Other people pick up on that energy, and this is why they may like something more, um, because it carries that energy. And this is why something of value, something of falseness is going to be sort of sieved out right now, because AI is going to reveal everything. Whatever is fake, because if it can be done with AI, it's not real. AI won't be able to create that true infinite feeling. You see, AI won't be able to do that. And even the most powerful quantum computers that we have today, what do? They tap in into that field of infinity. They don't create it, they just tap in. And yes, they can bring high level of coherence and um, almost negligent number of errors. Like that's how precise these computers are, um, because they basically tap into quantum, which is the truth, which is the infinite. Okay. um, but does that gonna translate into the feeling of a person, to into a person? Can that computer automatically make that person coherent in their heart, right? As somebody else, as somebody who already has this coherence, can it do that? And not by default, but with some technology, that it could be done. It could be done that there is a device that is producing high coherence in the area, and so everybody entering that space feels amazing because of that device. And that's just my little theory of how